Super Bowl Sunday is this Sunday. And we're going to miss football when it's gone. But for right now, this is it. The ultimate showcase. 49ers, Chiefs. Red on red crime. I was looking for some sort of analogy. I don't know. That's what I came up with. You don't come to me for, limericks and rhymes. You go see Dr. Seuss, all right? So, I took the liberty of going through their depth charts, and I didn't pull up any particular stats, but I did pull up, the groups and who I think is the better group, right? And we're just going to talk about it live. We're going to really break it down. And then from there, we'll talk about the narrative. We'll talk about, the situation, going into the game. What's the storyline? Well, that's wonderful. That's going to make the cut. What's the storyline? What's going on? All that jazz. So we'll get started here, obviously, with the quarterback position. Mahomes v. Purdy, otherwise known as the finesse talent, inherent, skill set of Mahomes, against the kind of game manager, against the, system quarterback, if you want to use that metric, against consistency, against just putting it on the field. This is an interesting matchup because it is truly the matchup of the two kinds of quarterbacks you see in the NFL. Mahomes is an expert, and I mean an expert in the art of improvisation, okay? If this guy was an improv comedy, he would be, winning all sorts of competition. The guy would be the funniest man in the world. That's how good he is at improv. Like, play starts to break down. That's when Patrick Mahomes is actually at his deadliest, right? That's when he becomes, him, so to speak. If you want to use the kids' terms, that's when he is him, so to speak. Brock Purdy, on the other hand, when things start to collapse, that's when he becomes not him. But when things are or things are isolated, things are, contained, he's able to be protected. His weapons are getting open. That's when he is a killer, man. I mean, I witnessed it firsthand as a Lions fan. You can't give this 49ers team life. You certainly can't give Brock Purdy life. You got to suck that life out of him. You got to sack him. You got to make him uncomfortable. You got to make him on the run. And look, I know he ran a little bit on the Lions. That's not usually how he works, right? Like, he's not really a scramble quarterback necessarily. If you can collapse the pocket on him, he's probably not getting out. But I don't know. Maybe he's started to develop a new skill set or develop more skills. I don't know. As far as who I mean, Mahomes is ultimately the better quarterback. But I think this is actually an interesting matchup. It reminds me a little bit of the Super Bowl between the Bucs and the Chiefs a few years ago, where Brady, very similar team, like a very loaded team, elite wide receivers, elite running game, elite defense. But Brady was not, in his peak, right? Brady was not in his prime. He still had an amazing year because he's Tom Brady. I don't think it's going to turn out that way as far as the game, but it very well could. I mean, like, if Mahomes and this offense does not show up in the second half like they did in the AFC Championship game, yeah, it could be bad. But speaking of the offense, the weapons here, I think, is where you probably get at the biggest discrepancy. Now, I'm not listing every single one of their weapons, so just so we're clear on that. I'm listing just the guys that sort of stand out to me and who you would need to have big games for a successful, end, so to speak. So for the Chiefs, you got Kelsey, you got MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you got Rashee Rice, you got Isaiah Pacheco. All pretty good players. Kelsey having an amazing playoff. Kelsey, obviously not the Travis Kelsey of yesteryear, but still a solid tight end. Still, future first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the great tight ends ever. No doubt about it. But outside of him, that's where things get a little tricky. MVS has had a great couple of games here in the postseason, but on the year, he was really not great. Rashee Rice, on the other hand, he's okay. He's been good in the postseason. Again, these players have been good, but they're just sort of, in a weird way, they're kind of like how Brock Purdy is to the 49ers. Like, they're not bad. Like, they're really not negative, but they're just like, they're not, man-boy separators, so to speak. They're not like strike the fear into you guys. They're consistent. when they're on the right page with Mahomes, when Mahomes is hitting them, they can do some damage. But, that's really the question. Can they be on the right page? Because on the year, they really weren't. But they've been looking a lot better in the postseason. And that's just the reality. On the other side, you got George Kittle, you got Debo, you got Ayuk, and you got C-Mac. You got Christian McCaffrey. Now that is, without a doubt, the scariest four-headed monster of weapons probably in the NFL. George Kittle, absolute dog. One of the best tight ends in the league. Debo Samuel, absolute dog. You can use him in a variety of ways. You can use him in the backfield. You can use him as a midfield threat. You can use him. You could probably use him as a deep ball threat. There's just a variety of ways you can go about using Debo Samuel, and that's what makes him so good. So makes him so potent as a weapon for this offense. Brandon Ayuk, he's having a breakout season. Last year I think was his first 1,000-yard receiving season. This year he's got 1,300 receiving yards. Brandon Ayuk is the deep ball threat. We saw it a couple of weeks ago against the Lions, right? With that crazy couple of catches he made. He made the crazy catch off of the Vildor helmet that should have been an interception if Vildor used his hands and not his head. But he's one of those guys that just seemed to kind of go under the radar the last couple of years. But that's probably because he really wasn't utilized as much, or he was developing in the background. And this year he really has taken a step forward. He's really shown himself as one of the top receivers in the league. And you pair him in a receiving room, in a passing room with Kittle and Debo. It's like, well, yeah, of course he can find himself getting wide open when you have those two cats running around. Not gonna be easy to manage all three of those guys. And then on the other side in the backfield, you got Christian McCaffrey, who, if they win this game, very well could be the Super Bowl MVP. Like, he is certainly one of, if not the best running back in football right now. He's absolutely elite. At any point, he can break off big runs. Now, to be fair, in the AFC Championship game, he only had one kind of big run. The Lions did a pretty good job of containing CMC from breaking out those big runs, which does bode well for the Chiefs' defense. Obviously, they're one of the top defenses in the league. I don't know how they do against the run, though. I don't know what their rankings are against the run. But it's still CMC. It still makes a play action threat, because at any point, CMC, he's so strong, he's so quick. He's everything in a running back, and he helps make this offense work, obviously. So I look at those weapons, and it's hard for me to give the edge to the Chiefs. If you gave even half of those guys over to Mahomes, they would win this game by 100, right? But they're all on the 49ers. So obviously not all of them are going to have elite, amazing games, but if just one or two of them have elite, amazing games, actually, you probably need two of them to have really elite, amazing games if you want to win the Super Bowl. But either way, it's a little bit of a mismatch in that regard. Now, on the defensive end, I just sort of grabbed a bunch of guys. I didn't grab, from secondary or line or what have you. So for the Chiefs, this is one of the best defenses in the league. You got Chris Jones. You got Snead. You got Karlaftis. You got Willie Gay. You got a lot of cats, okay? L'Jarius Sneed, guy's just an animal, okay? Guy is an animal in the passing game. If you throw a ball and L'Jarius Sneed is in the area, he's knocking it out of the air, and then he's probably going to knock you onto the ground. So he's a threat. George Karlaftis and Chris Jones on that defensive line, that is, that is the Cerberus without three heads. What's two-headed Cerberus? What's that called? Ortherus? Why do I know this? I know too much about mythology. I think it's an Ortherus or something like that. It's a two-headed dog, monster, creature thing. Either way, Chris Jones and George Karlaftis are absolute animals. They're killers. Those guys are going to make you pay. And Willie Gay as a linebacker, also a very, very great player. Certainly keeps the middle of the field in his territory. He's going to get a lot of tackles, as linebackers tend to do. On the flip side, you have, for the 49ers, Bosa, Chase Young, Armstead, Fred Warner, and a whole lot of other guys, right? again, the thing about both these teams' defenses is they are loaded. They're, like I named just 4 or 5 guys from both of them, and I know it's like, oh, you forgot about this guy, you forgot about that. It's like there's not a bad player. Like that, they're just all good, and it makes sense. You're in the Super Bowl, you're gonna have good players at that point, but it's really hard for me to decide which unit I find more terrifying. The name recognition makes me put San Francisco in front, but Kansas City's just been consistent, man. I mean, they made Lamar Jackson look like an idiot. And some of that might have been Lamar Jackson being himself, but it's never easy. It's always, a mutual effort, right? So what I will say is I think whichever one of these defenses make the opposing team's quarterback uncomfortable, and it's a lot harder to make Mahomes uncomfortable than it is to make Brock Purdy uncomfortable, I think that team is going to have the edge. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a defensive touchdown from either of these units. There's probably going to be some turnovers as well. Be shocked if there was no turnovers this game. I wanted to briefly talk about the kicker as well. Butker versus Moody. So the reason I want to talk about this, Harrison Butker, obviously a vet of this league. He's been kicking for, I don't know how long he's been kicking for. Seems like basically my whole life it seems like he's been kicking. How long? Let's see. Harrison Butker. Feels like my whole life he's been kicking. Yeah, I mean, he's been kicking for 6 years for Kansas City. I mean, he's one of the greats. He's one of the best kickers in the league. On the other side of it, you have an interesting situation with the rookie kicker, Jake Moody. So obviously they take this guy, Jake Moody, out of the University of Michigan. He missed a kick in the conference championship game, though it was early in that game, so it was made up for. He made a kick later in the game that obviously changed the situation, and then he made a kick even after that. This is going to be an interesting spot for kickers. I don't know if they're going to rely on the kicker. I don't know if you're going to see a lot of fourth and going for it. If they're going to take the points if they can get them. I don't know. I mean, neither of these coaches are like, I guess I'm used to Dan Campbell and going for it on like 4th and 1 regardless. But I mean, Andy Reid, certainly he's known for taking that risk. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is a smart guy offensively. So I don't know. I mean, like it really, I think if it comes down to this, like comes down to who they need to win, they need a game sealing win or a game sealing kick. I'd probably trust Harrison Butker a little bit more than Jake Moody just because of the experience. But here's sort of the narrative about this game. So we talked about the position players, we talked about skill players, talk about it all, right? I didn't talk about the O-lines. Do good. Here's the situation, all right? I wrote this down. I'm going to read it at verbatim, okay? To rematch Patrick Mahomes' first Super Bowl, though both these teams consist of talent on both sides of the football. Chiefs' offense is in the postseason has been very good compared to the regular season, but the defense continues to be a threat from the regular season into the postseason. 49ers, on the other hand, are consistent and well-insulated as they have been all year. Though they have had to mount 2 big comebacks late in games past couple of matchups here, both in the divisional round and in the conference championship round. Here's the thing. 49ers go down 24-7 like they did to the Lions against the Chiefs. Good luck, okay? Now, the reason I say that is not because it's a slight against the Lions, like that the Lions are the only team that would do that. It's because the Lions had to have everything go wrong all at once, and they had to have everything go right all at once in order for that comeback to happen, right? Odds of that happening again, pretty darn low, especially to a team that, has been there and is looking to repeat, which is insane to me. When you think about, okay, going into this year, the Chiefs, they start the season with a loss. First loss of week 1 in Mahomes' career, right? First loss in September, I think, ever. Like, you go into the year, the Chiefs just never look good. They have that terrible game on Christmas where the Raiders just knocked their socks off. And now they're sitting with a chance to repeat. They're defending their championship to the final stay. And the best part, and not the best part for Raiders fans, they're doing it in a division rival's house. I mean, if you're a Raiders fan, it's got to be bad. It's got to be bad, man. If the Chiefs win this game, you got to watch Patrick Mahomes hoist another Lombardi, but this time he's doing it in your house. That, I don't know, man. I would feel sick. I would feel sick to my stomach. Like if I saw like the Packers win a Super Bowl in Ford Field, oh man, I would want to throw up. I would go into the bathroom and I'd throw up blood. It'd be over. It'd be done. I wouldn't want to live anymore. It'd be done. It's a little dramatic, but either way, I do think that this narrative is a little interesting. I know there was a lot of people, a lot of Lions fans in particular, talking about, I don't want to watch the game. I have no interest. Wah. Shut up. Okay. Look, I know that sounds harsh. I know that sounds like I'm, trying to be high and mighty. I'm really not. I think it's ridiculous if you don't want to watch. Like, if you don't think this is an interesting matchup, I just don't think that you're that much of a football fan, frankly. Like, we broke it down. These are two very good teams, and you can say, "Oh, I want new teams." I want a Corvette and a giant mansion. You don't always get what you want. You get what gets served to you. It's not like we're getting two very boring teams. We're getting two teams, one of the top offenses in the league in the 49ers, and a top defense as well. And you got the top defense in Kansas City with one of the finest quarterbacks ever trying to defend his title. And it's a rematch from a Super Bowl a couple of years ago where Mahomes won his first championship. Like, I just don't see how this is not an interesting matchup to people. I don't get it. I don't get it. But look, all of that is to say, my pick for this Super Bowl, and Seth agrees with me, and we're going to mark these picks down, and then, next show we'll probably break down the overall, total 2023-2024 season from preseason to the Super Bowl, who ended up getting the most picks right. I'm going to take the 49ers. I think that they are overall the more consistent team. Now, the problem is eventually your consistency can run out, so to speak, and the hot team, they will win it out. They will finish the job, so to speak. And I don't want to – I hate betting against the Chiefs. I didn't really want to bet against the Chiefs last year, and hey, it worked out, right? The Chiefs ended up winning that game, but in this particular case, I think it's going to be tough for Kansas City to win the game when their offense looked as not great as it did in the AFC Championship, for example, where they scored just 17 points. You're not going to beat the 49ers scoring 17 points. You're not going to beat most teams scoring 17 points. As good as their defense is, it would be pure shock and awe if they have an offensive performance as bad as they did in the AFC Championship game to win this game. And I just don't see the 49ers. I think they're a team on a mission, man. And they want revenge. A lot of the guys that played in that Super Bowl in 2020 are still on the 49ers. They want revenge. And San Francisco, they've been dying for a Super Bowl as well for a very long time. They haven't had one since the 90s, right? So I will be rooting for the 49ers, and I will also pick the 49ers. And Seth agrees with me. He's also taking the 49ers. So we'll mark those two down. And, yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. I hope all the people who say they're going to not watch the Super Bowl, I really hope you can move along with your life and get past the fact that the Lions lost the game. It's just reality at this point. I've moved on. I'm focusing a little bit more of my attention on the draft and then getting better and getting back to that game next year. But either way, 49ers Chiefs, I am taking the 49ers. Seth is also taking the 49ers. And that is the final pick of the 2023 NFL season. Hey there, what you just watched was actually a clip from a larger show that we do every Tuesday night. What are you doing Tuesday night? Go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the like button so that you don't miss out on any more of our weekly shows every single Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you there.